As I tell my story, starting from the beginning, I won't say that I began with difficult circumstances. As a kid, I'm not sure I knew what that meant. They were just the circumstances that life had given me. I lived with my mom and dad, both of which who loved me very much, but battled with their own struggles with alcohol and drugs. Our house was one that was filled with lots of violence. During the time my grandparents were my saving graces, they would always be the ones to come save my sister and I when things got really bad. On that last violent night of my parents' marriage, it was my grandparents that had come to the house to get us after getting the call from the police department that there had been yet another domestic assault at our home. From that point forward in my life, I would live with my grandparents. My dad and my mom being there at different times. At age 8 or 9, my mother came for a Christmas Day visit that was supposed to last for 24 hours. She immediately took me to Frankfurt, Germany to live with her and her new husband. Life once again turned into a violent nightmare, filled with lots of fear and dreams of just going home with my grandparents where I knew things would be okay. I stayed over there for just about 7 months until finally my mom had had enough of my stepfather beating on me and called my grandparents. My teenage years began my own journey with alcohol and drugs. Alcohol at 10, marijuana at 12, LSD at 14, cocaine at age 16, the latter of which would stay a part of my life for the better part of the next 20 years. Lying, cheating, and stealing became a regular part of my life very early on in my journey. Troubles with the law began about age 16 and would continue on well into my adult years. My first arrest as an adult was when I was 18 years old. I was drunk and arrested for domestic assault. I guess the apple was not falling too far from the tree. My adult years would become one filled with toxic relationships, run-ins with the law, short-term stays at rehab centers, and a multitude of homeless shelters and other institutions. I was blessed with 4 beautiful children during this time, always with the intention of changing and being a good dad. But my old ways would always come back to the surface and become my driving force. It seemed as though nothing could change me. Nothing seemed to work, not the kids, not the rehabs, not the meetings, not being homeless. I was destined to be like this, I thought. Those fateful words I used to hear as a kid were coming true. I wasn't going to amount to anything. March 2011, I'm in trouble yet again. Chaos is the norm in my life. Always filled with fear, anxiety, and worry. Always trying to scheme my way through. I had really done it this time, though. I had spoken to a lawyer, and what he said to me was, I can't help you anymore. There's nothing I can do for you. You're going to go to prison, and it's going to be for at least 10 years. My mother calls a couple weeks later crying that she was never going to see me again, that her baby was going away. To me, it was just another drunken call from my mom, so I yelled at her to leave me alone and hung up on her, not knowing that would be the last conversation I would have with her. About a month later, I was in front of a judge who told me I was a menace to his community and sentenced me to 12 years in the Division of Corrections. June 15th, 2011, 4:40 p.m. I call home to the woman I'm in a relationship with, who I have a son with, only to be told that she was moving on. The feelings were overwhelming. I absolutely lost it and began crying like I've never cried. I remember being in my cell, curled in a ball, shaking back and forth, crying uncontrollably, asking why. What I thought then was just about the girl was actually a couple of decades worth of emotion coming to the surface. I prayed for the first time then, in that cell by myself, and just asked God to help me. I can tell you that it was not a burning bush kind of moment for me. My situation did not change when I woke up the next day. I still had a long prison sentence. I still was alone, so I thought. I didn't know it then, but something was happening in my life from that very moment. It was the next day that I met the chaplain of the jail I was in. His name was Chaplain Bob, and he talked to me and gave me a Bible and began meeting with me. He set the tone for what was going to happen in my life. I just didn't know it. I only met with him 3 or 4 times, but it was enough to give me a desire to change. I transferred to another prison in Jessup. That is where I met the men that I now know God placed in my life and used them to guide me. It was a purpose-driven life class. The facilitators were inmates. There I met Jeff and Steve, both of whom are convicted murderers who have given their lives to the Lord and on a daily basis seek out and attempt to guide and counsel men like me on how to change their lives and not return to prison. It was these men that walked with me on the prison yard, quoting scriptures like 2 Corinthians 5:17, It was these men that held me and told me it was okay to cry on the day that I got that call my mother had overdosed and died. It was these men that showed me through their walk that any man can be forgiven and live a righteous life. No matter where you are, it's those men that I think about when I think my life today is hard or that my problems are too big to handle. It's those men that taught me that with God all things are possible and that I serve a mighty God. My relationship with God is ever evolving and ever changing. It takes daily work to continue to grow. I've been out for about 3 years now, and I can tell you that if you asked me 8 years ago where my life would be in 2019, I would have sold myself way short. A great job, a beautiful fiance, relationship with my kids, freedom from the bondage of addiction, all because God placed people in my life at the perfect moment. The moment I was desperate enough and broken enough to listen to his message. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you've been through or what you've done. God loves you and cares for you and forgives you. With him, all things truly are possible.